Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am your host, as always, Rob Z with you. And this platform was created to help you break those chains that are holding you back in your life personally and professionally. Today, we have the wonderful, the amazing Paige Arnof-Fenn with us on the podcast. We're going to be talking about branding, marketing, visibility, influence, and how we can make a better presence for ourselves in the online space. And Paige, when we do these episodes, I like to jump in with a question right off the bat to get right into things. I know you're big on branding and setting a great online presence for yourself. You know, what is the biggest mistake that people make with their online presence? Where do they go wrong, and how can they do it right?
Rob, thanks for having me. And I'm excited to chat with you today. And that's an awesome question to kick off with. You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they spread themselves too thin and they are not consistent in their online presence. So if you're on too many platforms, we talked before the show about multitasking versus staying focused. I think when you're on too many platforms and you're trying to be too many things to too many different audiences, what you're doing is you're confusing your audience, and it's not a way to build trust. A brand is a relationship you have with your consumers or customers, and it's a promise of a consistent experience. So every time you show up, they know what to expect. And if you're trying to be one thing on Facebook and something else on Pinterest, something else on X or Instagram, and then yet another personality on LinkedIn, you're really doing yourself a disservice. You're diluting your brand. And so I always tell people, you know, if you do kind of a Google check, put your name in the Google box and see what comes up. And if it's a lot of mixed messages, you need to kind of hit the pause button, because if you do that, you know, you have to assume before anybody returns your phone call, meets you for lunch or coffee, or invites you to be on their podcast, they're going to check you out online. And the question is, what are they going to find? Is it a hot mess? Is it a bunch of digital dirt that pops up? What is it that it says about you? And, you know, it's just a real risk today if you haven't kind of done your homework and done your due diligence, that what they're going to find is not going to be compelling enough for them to return the phone call. And they're certainly not going to invite you to be on their podcast, because like I said, on LinkedIn, if you're really buttoned up and professional, that person I'd like to see again. But the one on Facebook on spring break doing crazy stuff, you know, scantily clad, not so much. So I think that really is a huge risk today.
It's a really good point. And also, you know, I love that because it applies to your personal life also. If you're trying to be too many things to too many people, if you're trying to people please, then you're going to dilute yourself and you're not going to really make real connections. You're not even going to know who you actually are yourself. Right. So it's a great example that if we're doing this online, we're probably doing this in real life also, trying to be so much to so many people. And it can be challenging to figure out who you are in the online space. Who am I supposed to be and how am I supposed to be? And figuring that journey out can be a challenge, no doubt, and can take time. So I want to dive into how you figure that out for yourself, how you help your clients figure that out. Before we get there, let's just pause for a second. This is the Unstuck movement. So this platform was created because I wanted to help you break those chains in your life that might be holding you back. Whatever that looks like for you, I wanted examples from people who have had real breakthroughs, who've gone through these things, to give you an example that it's possible for you also. We're brought to you by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. And also, if you want to launch your own platform, you really feel like you're the expert at what you do, but you want to be the go-to authority in your space. You want to make a lasting impact on people's lives and also create incredible connections personally and professionally. You should launch your own podcast. I'd love to help you do that. You can check out the Pro Podcaster Academy at robzwentz.com. Paige Arnof-Fenn is with us today, the founder and CEO of Mavens Moguls, a global branding and digital marketing firm serving major corporations, startups, and nonprofits. A Stanford and Harvard Business School graduate, she She is a sought-after speaker, board member, and a contributor to Entrepreneur and Forbes. So it's really great to have you here. And I want to continue with this first topic that we brought up, because how did you figure this out for yourself? How did you figure out who you were online and bring that authentic voice out?
So it was a lot of hard work and a bit of a circuitous route. You know, when I graduated from college in the 80s, I was an economics major. Michael Douglas had just won the Oscar for the first Wall Street movie, and I was convinced I was going to go to Wall Street and conquer the world. And I realized about a week into my new job that I had maybe made a terrible mistake, but I had made a 2-year commitment to that company and that position. And only after completing that commitment, applying to go back to business school to rebrand myself, did I find a career path that really resonated with me. So I got a summer internship in marketing, loved it. They gave me an offer to come back, and I've been in marketing ever since. So there's a bit of trial and error, I think, in trying to figure out what your authentic brand is. You know, when I was on Wall Street, I realized there were 3 things about my job I really liked. And a girlfriend of mine pointed out to me that the 3 things I enjoyed were not finance. They were marketing activities. I had never taken a marketing job in my life, marketing class or a marketing job. So I didn't even really know what marketing was from a career standpoint. But I knew that on Wall Street, when we completed a deal, because I was the junior person on the team right out of college, I had to run an ad in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times to show that we had completed the transaction. I got to plan a closing dinner, and I got to buy promotional gifts for everybody that was involved on the team. And my girlfriend said to me, "Paige, what you love is advertising, events, and promotions. Those are all marketing activities." And it turns out she was spot on. Those were the things that were intuitive to me. They were fun for me to do. And it didn't even feel like work. I was having a ball. When I got my summer internship in marketing, everything about that job was just super fun. I was really good at it. I got the highest mark in my marketing class that was a required class in the MBA program. And I've just been doing it ever since. I think what you need to do, if you don't know in your gut, if you don't know from your own experience, talk to people who know you well, personally and professionally. How do they think of you? What are the words that come up when they think of you first? So, you know, and do those words converge into themes? Or do people who know you in one capacity think of you one way and another capacity think of you another way? Where is there overlap? So it's kind of basic market research, which you do for a business, you do for a product, you do for a service. But you need to do it for your person as well. And, you know, where is the real estate that you own in people's brains? What kind of problem do you help them solve? What kind of problem does your product or service help them solve? It's a very simpatico exercise that you would do for a business that you do for a person. And I think, you know, in this digital online world that we live in, especially post-pandemic, you know, everybody's a brand today. It's not just LeBron James and Taylor Swift and Beyonce, but, you know, we're all walking around with these phones in our pockets with all these social media platforms. And like I said, when people Google you, what shows up? When do they think of you? When do they tell people, you know, you should call my friend Rob. He's really good at that. He knows this stuff great. He'll point you in the right direction, or maybe he can help you directly. So those are the kinds of, again, you don't have to spend a ton of money, but you do have to, you know, cast a net, talk to people. You can send out a Zoomerang or a Survey Monkey, and try and get objective feedback. You have to ask people who are your target audience, not just your friends and family who know you and love you, but people who would actually buy something from you. What did they say? The problem with just asking your neighbor, your friend, your mother, your cousin is they love you. They don't want to hurt your feelings. So they're never going to say the baby's ugly. You got to talk to people who really know you in a capacity of the line of work you want to do, and how do they think of you? So those are just a few of the things that I would tell anybody to think about right off the bat.
That's really good advice, and something that a lot of people, I think when it comes to your business or something that's a little bit detached from you personally, it's easier to do. When it comes to yourself, it can be really challenging for people to ask that question, right? And to receive the feedback and to honestly look at it. What advice do you give to somebody who maybe they're like, well, that sounds good, but that scares the crap out of me to do that because that's a lot of exposure of like who I am. What do you say to that?
So, you can call your marketing friend, you can outsource that. Ask somebody who does it professionally.
Yeah.
You know, we've had prospects and clients come to us and say, I feel like I'm the best kept secret. Why are my competitors? Why is the competition getting all the press? They're always being mentioned. They're always kind of top of mind. But everybody I talk to says, I have such a great idea, but we're not selling anything. What's wrong? And so I'll say, have you done any market research? Let me see what who you've talked to and what the feedback is. And they say, well, it hasn't been formal research, but everybody thinks we're great. But again, they're talking to their neighbor, their friend, their family. That's not market research. That's, basically, again, people who are not going to be honest with you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So in that case, you do need to hire an outside expert to say, and again, it doesn't need to be super expensive. They can send out the Survey Monkey. They can do a Zoom interview. They could do focus groups, online or offline, and ask the tough questions and then, relay that feedback to you. So if you're not comfortable doing it, if you feel like you're not in a position to do it, find somebody that you trust that can be objective. Because if you ask the questions in a way that's like leading the witness, so Rob, tell me what you love about my company. So Rob, tell me your 5 favorite things that I've done for you. That's not market research. That's basically putting someone in a really tough position where they're not going to be able to be honest with you. Yeah. So it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. That's not research. You want people who can ask questions in an objective way to basically get real insights, get data, get learnings that are going to help you form a unique value proposition so that you own some real estate in people's brains so that when they have a problem that you can help them solve, they think of you first. That's the key. That's how you know you're a brand. If you're not a brand, you're a commodity, and commodities compete on price. If you're doing that, it's not a sustainable business model. You want to be a brand because people pay for brands.
Yeah, and they know exactly what they're coming to you for. They know exactly what you're all about. It makes so much sense, but it also is something that I would say most businesses struggle to ever get there. They struggle to ever figure that piece of the puzzle out. And why would you say it is? Why would you say most businesses don't do this?
Fear. They,
is it because like once you get the information and you've made a decision on this is who I am, now you've got to double down on that one thing and you can't be everything to everybody?
Right. You've got to deliver. And, it's hard work. I mean, it's not an accident. It's not just like, oh, they got lucky. The thing about marketing, that is not true for brain surgery or rocket science is everybody kind of thinks they're a marketing expert because they watch television, they read magazines, they are online all the time. And so it doesn't really look like a job per se. And when people come to me, sometimes they'll say like, I have a marketing problem. Can you help me? And one of my first questions is always, tell me what your problem is. Be specific. What kind of problem are you having? Because it might not be a marketing problem. It can be a messaging problem. It can be a sales problem. It could be a whole bunch of things. I don't know if you ever remember hearing or seeing, it's like a cartoon where they're like, half a dozen people and they're all blindfolded and they're touching different parts of an elephant. And one's got the trunk and one's got the tail and one's got a leg. And they're asking people to describe, what are you touching? And none of them say they're touching an elephant because they're touching something different. That's kind of like marketing. There are a million tools in the marketing toolkit. And especially now in this digital landscape, there's so many online tools and technologies. When I started in marketing in 1990, there was television, radio, print, and outdoor advertising. That was it. There was no online media. There was no digital marketing. There were 3 network news stations. They didn't have 500 channels. There was no streaming. The media landscape, the marketing landscape has exploded, and there's just a lot out there now. So again, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. You want to figure out, based on your target audience, what are the right words and pictures? What's going to be compelling to them? Because you need to figure out your core message. What 1 or 2 things do you want to stand for and be known for? A lot of people come up with a list of like 10 different things. People can't remember 10 things. You want to have a unique selling proposition that sets you apart from your competitors. So it's a niche that you own, that you do better than anybody else. I feel like, it's definitely not great. Marketing sometimes seems so obvious. It's like, well, of course that's a great idea, but it's based on insights of your customer that, took a lot of due diligence and a lot of trial and error, testing, learning. What are those key messages? And again, I think people, a lot of brands and companies end up wanting to talk about all the shiny objects, all the features that they offer. People don't really care about features. They care about the benefit to them. How are you going to make their life easier, more convenient? Are you saving them time? Are you saving them money? That's what people want to hear. Not like, I have 10 shiny objects. Let me tell you all about them. That's just not the way it works. And sorry, one more thing I forgot to say. And in most cases, it's not just one audience you're talking to. There's a primary, secondary, and tertiary audience out there, the ultimate decision maker. But to get to that person, you may have to go through a finance person, a procurement person. So you've got multiple audiences, and there are different messages that you need to communicate to each of those people, because the buying person may have a budget issue. So you have to talk to the finance person to make sure that they understand there's a good return on the investment if they buy this. And it's easy to get. There's not a supply chain problem. So make sure that you understand all the people you need to talk to and what messages are going to matter to them.
What is that one word for you? You were saying about the defining yourself by one word. What would you say that one word is for yourself?
So, the short answer is I really want to be kind of the backstop for all things marketing. But again, marketing means different things to different people. But if you remember when Amazon started, they were the world's biggest bookseller. That's what they started with. That is the stake they put in the ground. And it's hard to even remember now because, we're in such a different world. But all they wanted to do was sell you a book. You put your credit card in, you ordered the book, and they were going to send it to you. Mm-hmm. And people were a little skeptical early on, but okay, I'll put my credit card in. And sure enough, the book showed up. Great. And they started building a relationship, and then they expanded into music. Okay, now you can get your books and your music here. Okay, now today, fast forward 2025, you've got your credit card stored with them, and there's literally nothing you wouldn't buy from Amazon. I mean, people buy diamond jewelry, their groceries, their clothes, their food vacations. Like you can get everything on Amazon basically today. Look at Oprah. When Oprah started, she was like a news person in Tennessee. She was like an anchor on the news. And she stayed in media and ultimately, started her talk show, and she was a talk show host. And then she started a book club. And then you look at where Oprah grew, and her audience just grew with her. And she just in concentric circles got bigger and bigger and bigger. But you got to start somewhere so that people build that relationship, you build that trust, you start standing for a brand in people's mind. And once you get that hook, then you grow from there. So, when I started, everything I talked about was marketing. Our tagline is marketing, our website talks marketing, and all of our first clients were marketing projects. But what I realized and what they realized is a lot of their problems were not just marketing problems. They had HR talent problems. They had sales problems. And so once we had that trusted relationship, clients used us for more and more things. And it got to the point where we had clients that basically said, you may call yourself a marketing consultant, but to me, you're like the business consigliere. I don't like making decisions until I bounce them off of you first. But I didn't start there. I didn't tell people I can help you. I've had a career in corporate business, in startup businesses. I've worked in finance. I've worked at, Fortune 500. I can be a consultant, a business consultant. That's too much. You can't stand for that all at the beginning. You got to stand for something very discreet. And how do you stand out? When I started, I was like networking up the wazoo. I was everywhere, breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, evening commitments. And, I'm a Southerner. I love chatting with people. I'm a big networker. It's very intuitive to me. So I was popping up everywhere. And when people had problems that were marketing, a lot of people would say, that woman, she was at that event. You should give her a call. And so that is how I started to build my reputation. And once you have a bunch of reference clients that can vouch for you, and you've got people that say, they really help me, they're really good at this, then that's how it starts to snowball. And that's how you build your base and grow from there.
Boy, great advice. Really amazing stuff, Paige. I can tell you're an expert at what you do because of just the depth of knowledge that you have on this. And, as you were talking about that, I was thinking to myself, you mentioned Amazon, you mentioned Oprah, and it's like, oh yeah, they do all these different things. Somebody would say, well, those people aren't focused, right? They're not focused on one thing, but they were focused on one thing. And so dawning on me in this conversation is like making that one point really clear until you build your brand. And then you're allowed to diversify into doing other things because people come to you because of you, not for that one thing anymore. Because now you're kind of like the go-to person. So you can branch out. Am I hearing that correctly?
100%, but you got to build that trust first. As we talked about it at the beginning, a brand is a relationship, and you trust that you're going to have a consistent experience every time you encounter. Think about McDonald's or Starbucks. Imagine if you went to different locations in different cities and it was a completely different experience. You didn't know what was on the menu. You didn't know, what it was like to sit down or to order. That would not be something that felt normal or relaxing or fun. Why you keep going back, whether you're in Tokyo or San Francisco or New York or Toronto, is, when you walk in, what the size, the Starbucks language for small, medium, and large. That you like a frappuccino. The lingo. You have a comfort. You have a relationship with this brand so that you can go in, put your feet up, and feel at home no matter where you are in the world, because that is a brand that you've built a relationship over your life with, and that they can deliver on that experience. It would be very confusing and very unsettling if every location had a different experience. That would not build the brands that they are today.
Yeah, completely. It totally makes sense. Okay, so real fast, we're going to pause for a second to shout out the sponsor of the show. When we come back, though, I want to talk about how do you, we talked about here, how to establish yourself in that one arena and the market research you can do to establish yourself in that arena. How do people see you? How do people, when you come up to them, how do they pop up in your head? And, you know, I said this before, I talk about impact a lot. And impact to me is when a word is said and your name pops up in somebody's head. You've made an impact in their life because of that thing. So how do you know when to diversify? So now I've become the go-to in this thing. I am that person. Now it's time for me to be the brand. How do you know when to step into that stage? We'll dive into that in just 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Paige, I'm loving this conversation. It's so good, so insightful. So you've established yourself as, say, you're a company. You've established yourself as a brand for being this certain thing. How do you know when it's time to go ahead and diversify? How did you figure that out for yourself? How do you help others figure that out?
So again, sometimes it's hard to be your own champion and your own advocate. You have to have people around you, mentors, champions, cheerleaders, butt kickers, people that can be honest with you and give you that real-time feedback. And when you have built you started to build momentum, you've got your base, at what point is there an inflection where it's like the classic hockey puck where, the hockey stick where you start to really scale. And for me, it was like in year 3. A lot of startup companies fail in the first year or two, but we were growing pretty quickly. From year 1 to year 2, we quadrupled. From year 2 to year 3, we tripled. So the base is growing and we're getting bigger every year. But it was really in year 3 where I feel like we kind of crossed over. And a few things happened where we got much higher visibility. Instead of me pushing, following up, planting seeds, showing up at places, the feedback I got early on was like, oh, good for you. I started the company right after 9/11, which was a very unsettling time for businesses in the US. The stock market had gone crazy. And I mean, in this week, we've had a crazy stock market, but back then it didn't happen. That was a very unusual situation. And so when I started the company and hung out the shingle, there were a lot of people that knew me from my big Fortune 500 corporate marketing days or my venture-backed startup days. And they really didn't take me seriously as an entrepreneur. They knew I was good at marketing, but they never thought that I would start a small company because I had always been associated with much bigger brands and bigger companies. I was at Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola and 3 startups that had gone public. So they were, much bigger brands. So year 1, I would, hand people my business card. They'd never heard of my company name. Not impressive in the same way that handing somebody a business card with a Coca-Cola logo, people are like, wow, that's great. Basically it was year one where I was out there networking my butt off, planting a million seeds. Year two, I was still following up, trying to not be perceived as a stalker, just like pleasantly persistent. Hey, we had a meeting. You had said you had marketing problems. I sent you a proposal. Can we chat? Do you want to follow up? It was year three where it really crossed over and I hit the tipping point where instead of me being the pusher, it was me pulling along the people. They were coming to me saying, I hear you've been doing this for a few years and I hear from a lot of people you're really good. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people who have hired you and really seen results. So it went from kind of a push to a pull, like people were knocking on the door. They were calling me. They weren't returning my calls. And so, it's reading the tea leaves, looking at the market and realizing, you're building momentum. You're starting to scale. You're starting to get market results and feedback. And that's when you kind of got a bigger platform, more visibility, more awareness, and you can kind of shift your message at that point from, trying to sell, to saying like, now let's expand, let's look beyond. And I just feel like a lot of businesses, you kind of get to a point where, you can feel the momentum shift. People love buying things. They don't like to be sold stuff. So, when you start sharing your stories, and kind of building that origin story that only you can tell about your business, what is unique, special, and different about you? Who were those early reference clients and customers who trusted you, who believed in you? What happened in that magical kind of start together? And how have you grown? How have you expanded? And capturing those stories that only you can tell. And I think especially in this day and age, with all the artificial intelligence out there, there is so much robotic, generic copywriting, websites.
Sure,
and I think where people can really stand out today is sticking to what's unique, special, and different about them, sharing their stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, being vulnerable. That's where you stand out versus the robots. It's an authentic conversation with authentic interactions with people that they can really relate to. Because if all you're doing is putting stuff into Claude or Chat GPT or Perplexity and seeing what it comes back with, chances are anybody in your category or industry could say the same thing. You got to steer clear of the sea of sameness. Being a brand is about being unique, special, and different. What is it that you offer that nobody else offers? And a lot of people are scared because they think, oh, but I just do this little thing. This is where I really stand out. But being a niche market, if you can really solve a problem that a niche cares about, that can be enough of a hook to really, start building a very solid brand and business. Influencer marketing is a big thing today. Who are the influencers in your category or industry? And a lot of people say like, oh, the Kardashians are big influencers. Well, they are, but are there micro influencers or nano influencers who are specifically valuable to your market? Because if you can get on their radar, if they talk about you in their blog, on their website, that's going to be way more valuable than having the Kardashians put something on X about you, because your niche can be very small, but very, very valuable. Mm-hmm. So think about what's important to your audience. Think where you can really shine, differentiate yourself, and where your story is unique, so that, you know, you really do own that real estate in the brains of people who matter.
That's amazing. That's so true. And, you know, I want to, the last couple of minutes we have here with each other, I want to use me as a case study, okay? Because I'm curious what you're going to say to this. So I do a few different things, and I know it's better for me to dial down into one thing and go after that one thing. But when you're known for a couple of, like, I do leadership coaching. I help companies and people with their communication. I also do this podcast, and I help people launch their podcast and do their branding that way by helping them like have their face and their voice tell their story. And I love doing all of those things. I also build websites for people, right? I still do some like social media marketing for people, right? Those are things that I was doing a number of years ago with my old company that still kind of carry over. And I'm good at all of those things. I love doing a couple of those things. How would you advise me? Like, okay, Rob, here you're doing all this stuff. Get it focused, get it targeted, get it narrow. Where would we start?
I think I would start with the word unstuck, because that is in bold letters above our heads right now. And I think everybody gets stuck sometime, somewhere, somehow. And I think you want people to associate Rob with being unstuck. And I would tie everything you're doing to that kind of hook, because your website can get stuck, you know, your communications can get stuck, all the things you're, you know, everything you say you're good at, you like doing, you know, you've got a track record. I would link everything to the Unstuck brand. And so anytime somebody says the word stuck, like everybody that knows you says, oh, I know who you can call Rob. He's like the Unstuck guy. Like, that's the guy that will get you going again. He's going to jumpstart your business. He's going to jumpstart your communications and messaging. You know, he has a podcast. You can hear all the stories of how all these businesses got unstuck. That is the guy you need to talk to. And I think if that is your hook, you know, I don't know anybody else in my life that I associate with that word. And that to me has legs. That to me is like, you can work with that.
And so thank you for that, by the way. Thank you so much. And look for that word. And like, you go back to the beginning of this thing, the word might be right in front of you. Like for us right now, it's literally above my head. But that word might be right in front of you. So asking the right people, or getting somebody to ask the people to find out and dig in, like, what is that word, and then hone in on, okay, so now this word keeps popping up. How do I double down and pay attention to that? So not necessarily saying, I'm making sure I'm hearing what you're saying here. You don't need to ditch everything that you're doing, but you need to bring it all in around that word.
Right. Tie it together. Again, what is the consistent theme, and how do you put a bow on it? So whatever you're doing, whenever you're out there, you need to work, find the right words and pictures to tie your message to the Unstuck movement. That, everything you're doing should link to that.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I love that. That's so good. It's so powerful, and it's simple. I
was going to say it's easy, because now you've got a game plan. Like now it's like, you've got that kind of guiding light that says, all right, this afternoon, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And, whether you're putting together a talk, you're making a presentation, you're sending out a proposal, how are you going to be the unstuck guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Really good, because that is so, I love when things are simple. That's a theme of this podcast, because simple pops up all the time. The best things in life are simple, but especially in the marketing space, things are complicated. It looks complicated. There's a billion different things, like you said, you could do. Back in the day, marketing was a couple of things. Now it's a million different things. And every day somebody's trying to pull you off course.
Right.
Right. And they might not be trying to, but just because they're putting something out there that looks different than what you're doing, that seems like it's working, it's dragging you in their direction. And you don't need to go in that direction. You got to stay with you. Whew, so good. So I love that. I love when it comes back. It's always simple, and it's usually right in front of your face or above your head. So that's awesome.
But simple is hard. It looks
Yeah.
easy. In retrospect, you go like, of course, like that's so obvious. But when it really like feels comfortable and feels natural and kind of fits, and it's like, oh, all the puzzle pieces are now fitting together. Now I've got a clear vision. Now I see my path. Now I know kind of what my guiding light is. So, you know, when you find your hook, it should be basically a way for you to decide every day, is this on strategy or off strategy? If this is something good, I'm going to move forward. If it's a distraction, I don't want to be spread too thin. I don't want to go off course. So keep that kind of true north, that North Star of like, is this advancing the Unstuck movement? Is this a tie? If it is, great, move forward. If it's not, get rid of it and, you know, figure out what is, because you don't want, again, to dilute your brand. You don't want to get it too spread too thin, too distracting, because you're going to lose people if it doesn't tie together well.
You know, I have a background in radio broadcasting, and in radio broadcasting, we always lived by the KISS method, which I'm sure you know what it is. Keep it simple, stupid. I like keep it stupid, simple, but I never felt like I'm calling somebody stupid for no reason. But keep it stupid, simple is when I was younger, I didn't get it, and as time goes on, and the more I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, that it comes up over and over and over and over again. But like you said, simple isn't easy. Which is hilarious, right? Exactly. Simple should be the easiest thing in the world, but it's not. You have to really focus on that area. This has been so valuable, so powerful. So I'm so glad we got connected, Paige. Thank you. As we're wrapping this things up, I want to encourage people to check you out and more about what you do. So they can go to your website, mavensandmoguls.com, learn more about you there. What can they expect from the website? What should they check out?
So I've got a ton of free content on the website. Nothing's gated. Articles, podcasts, videos, anything and everything you ever wanted to know about marketing or afraid to ask, just check it out. I'm also on LinkedIn. So, you know, one of my clients always says, because my company name has two names, my last name has two names, it's all too many names for her to remember. All she remembers is Paige and Mavens. She can never remember the other words. So the truth is, with search engine optimization, if you go to Google and you put in Paige and Mavens, I'm going to pop right up that way too. And you can find a lot online. So I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. Make sure you find out all about Paige at mavensandmoguls.com. If you want to be the authority in your space, I encourage you, launch your platform, your podcasting platform. You can go to robzwentz.com and do that there. Anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Well, thank you so much, Rob. It's been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you having me today.
Absolutely. Really glad to have you here. Another true testimony of breakthrough for everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.